Certainly. Here's the full version of your text completed in English as a continuous speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today at a moment of significance, as we witness the unfolding of a vital chapter in the relationship between two proud nations, South Africa and the United States of America. On May 21, President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa meets President Donald Trump at the White House to discuss the future of trade between our countries. The meeting follows weeks of public statements, diplomatic tensions, and divergent narratives about South Africa's internal affairs and its position in the world. Earlier this week, South Africa's Minister for Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, took to social media to share news of a productive meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. "Trade is essential between our two countries," Steenhuisen remarked, "and we are determined to ensure that access for agricultural products remains open in a mutually beneficial way. Trade means jobs and a growing economy." This sentiment echoes a broader aspiration shared by the people of South Africa and the United States, to foster economic growth, enhance food security, and strengthen bilateral cooperation in a world increasingly shaped by interdependence. Yet, despite this shared vision, tensions have been simmering, fueled by controversial statements and deeply rooted historical grievances. President Trump's recent remarks added a layer of complexity to the upcoming talks. In a series of public declarations, the president alleged that white South Africans, particularly Afrikaners, are victims of genocide, an accusation not supported by human rights experts, global observers, or the South African government itself. These claims have drawn sharp criticism, with South African officials and civil society leaders describing them as unfounded and politically motivated. President Ramaphosa, speaking to reporters on May 17 ahead of his journey to Washington, dismissed the genocide narrative outright. "There is no genocide in South Africa," he said. "We are going to have good discussions on trade." His tone was one of calm determination, a leader unwilling to allow misinformation to derail the possibility of constructive dialogue. Ramaphosa further called the idea of racially motivated persecution of Afrikaners a completely false narrative. He emphasized that South Africa is committed to democratic principles, constitutional order, and the ongoing work of reconciliation in a nation still healing from the scars of apartheid. That brutal system of racial segregation and oppression, under which the white minority ruled over the disenfranchised black majority, came to an end more than 30 years ago, in 1994. But its economic legacy endures. Despite comprising less than 10% of the population, white South Africans continue to own a majority of the country's land and hold a disproportionate share of wealth. This imbalance is the result of historical injustice, not reverse discrimination, and the government of South Africa has long sought to address it through lawful and democratic means, including land reform and inclusive economic policy. Yet, President Trump has taken a different view. Not only has he echoed the genocide claims, but he has also taken direct action. He suspended U.S. aid to South Africa, citing what he described as egregious accusations made by South Africa against Israel and fueling disproportionate violence against racially disfavored landowners, a claim experts roundly dispute. Human rights activists and international legal scholars have labeled the accusation both dangerous and misleading. Further complicating matters, Trump announced that the United States would begin accepting white South Africans, many of them descendants of Dutch settlers, as refugees fleeing supposed racial persecution. This policy has ignited controversy on both sides of the Atlantic and raised alarm among migration and human rights organizations. They argue that it not only undermines South Africa's sovereignty but also legitimizes a dangerous distortion of the truth. It is against this backdrop that the two leaders meet, one representing a nation still navigating the complex aftermath of colonialism and apartheid, the other driven by a political narrative that resonates with certain factions of his domestic base. But beneath the noise of accusation and denial lies the real potential for cooperation, if both sides choose to engage in honest, respectful dialogue. Trade between the United States and South Africa is not just about goods and tariffs. It is about food on the table for working families, about small farmers in Limpopo and Iowa, about the promise of dignity through work and commerce. It is about creating partnerships that reflect shared values of fairness, opportunity, and mutual respect. Minister Steenhuisen's comments reflect this vision. His meeting with Trade Representative Greer focused on sustaining market access, ensuring regulatory cooperation, and fostering innovation in agricultural production. These are the real issues that matter to people on the ground, far removed from the rhetoric of international disputes. The stakes are high. South Africa is a regional leader and a gateway to the African continent. The United States, with its immense economic influence, has the power to uplift or isolate. The choices made in Washington this week will echo across hemispheres and shape the course of relations for years to come. Yet, even in the face of political tension, there is hope. Hope that two democracies, both shaped by struggle, by protest, by the demand for freedom, can come together not in hostility but in partnership. Hope that President Ramaphosa and President Trump will look beyond their differences and find common ground in the enduring promise of trade and diplomacy. As the world watches this meeting unfold, we are reminded of the importance of facts over fiction, cooperation over conflict, and dialogue over division. The South African people have endured centuries of hardship to build a democracy rooted in equality and justice. That journey is far from over, but it deserves to be respected, not distorted to serve external political agendas. In the end, history will judge the decisions made in rooms far from public view. But today, the message from Pretoria and Washington must be clear: we are stronger together, and our future depends not on the battles of the past, but on the bridges we build now. Let this be the beginning of a renewed understanding, an honest, pragmatic, and forward-looking partnership between South Africa and the United States. Let truth and integrity guide our actions. And let trade be not just a transaction, but a testament to what is possible when nations choose unity over fear. Let me know if you'd like this version stylized for print, a speech transcript, or turned into a news article.